All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll want to welcome everyone to the May meeting of the Oconee County ATAX Commission. My name is Kevin Evans. I am the vice chairperson. I'll be conducting the meeting. We do not have any special guest that needs to be recognized at this time, so we'll go ahead and get started with the meeting. First, hopefully everyone has had a chance to look over the minutes that were sent out from the March meeting. Do I have a motion that we accept the minutes as written?
I'll make a motion. We accept it. I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Moving forward, treasurer's report.
Yes, sir. So you should have in front of you a quick breakdown of the treasurer's report, and then also printed you out a little more detail to share. On the local ATAX side, balance is showing $640,000. You can see we still have 4 encumbrances of projects that are ongoing. Hadn't hit it yet. So our available balance in local ATAX today is $520,653. We'll talk about this probably a little bit more later, but I'm going to brag about that for just a minute with the stuff that we got going on with our software. I put a few bullet points there just so you can see the improvement. I also included a layout for you on the local ATAX, the next sheet that shows the increases. We are up 67% so far this year with local accommodations tax collections. And I credit that to, obviously, post-COVID, a lot of people are getting out and going, but mainly a lot of that to the software that we've been working on and beginning to capture everything that's being utilized. We did a great job through COVID with marketing efforts. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to that part of the agenda. I just wanted to brag a little bit on that software and how well it's working. Our finance team is doing an incredible job keeping up with that. We've got one person that's assigned just to local ATAX collections. They handle all the phone calls, they sign everybody up online, and keep up with this on a regular basis. So it's doing really well, and as you've noticed the last couple of agendas, we've been able to supplement and do more things for the tourism industry and for things that we've got going on because of that. So just to brag on that a little bit. On the state ATAX side, you can see we started with $151,000 revenues coming in, expenses going out. Our balance today is $255,947, and I'll be requesting we pull I think 190 out of that today for next year's Visit Oconee budget when we get to that point of the agenda. So that's your treasurer's report. I'm glad to answer any questions on it.
Just a quick question. I don't know if you're going to mention it later on when you were talking, but how much or what is the compliance now?
So we feel confident that we're over 90% compliant right now. And coming from 40-45% where we started, we feel really good. The lack in me saying more than that is there's still a lot of agencies or homeowners who are using multiple platforms to collect. They may be a VRBO customer as well as an Airbnb customer as well as a home away customer. And so there's a few that are still, you're supposed to be collecting for this one but not for this one because they're collecting for you. There's still a few of those that we're tracking down because Airbnb pays us monthly as a whole where VRBO does not. So if you're a homeowner and you do all of those, then you're responsible for this part, but not this part.
Right.
So a lot of that is still some educating going on, and I would say 99% of any of the calls we get, it's really just an education point at this time to say, here's what you're supposed to be doing, and get them set up for the future.
Yeah, and I think the proof's in the pudding. They're going from the growth that we've seen from not having the software to that. So well worth that investment of that software.
And some of you that's been on the mission for a while, the top chart that's on here, you can remember that short-term rentals used to only be about 20% of our collections. And now it's over half of the collections, which is where it should be based on our inventory.
I just want to make a quick comment. So, Phil, I really appreciate this software that y'all have in place for this. Cause I think I recently read yesterday, WSPA had put out a story about a lot of the major cities like Myrtle Beach and Greenville were having issues with Airbnb with the tax collection, right?
Right.
So the fact that we have a program like this here in Oconee with, you said about 90%, but I mean that's strong. That's very strong.
Yeah,
So,
we're continuing to work each day, trying to get that a little higher.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
You may just take it.
Go ahead.
All right, so we'll go down our action items list. The first one is the Visit Oconee SC budget, and you just saw your the amount in state aid tax. We, as a county, have set up our state accommodations tax collections to collect it all year and utilize that for the operation of Visit Oconee. So I put together for you, with Ken's assistance, his breakout of his budget. You can see his total expenses, and you can see how we fund that through different county operations. And so there is a little bit of a difference between the total revenue and total expenses. And that reason is because the 30% fund is an estimate. When we look at that money, that's our state money that comes in, that changes every quarter. What I did to get this estimate is that we went back 5 years and I took a 5-year average. And I utilized a 5-year average for that number. Our last 2 years have been huge. And so that we don't overestimate, I tried to stay a little conservative, and I went back and pulled a couple lower years in there. So we may actually bring in a little more or a little less than that 79,375. And as we get through the second, third quarter, we begin making those adjustments with Visit Oconee, however we need to do that. So the request today for state aid tax is $202,000. We use that to cover the personnel, basically. And that money is then sent over to Visit Oconee and then basically paid for their salaries. So this is a request for $202,000 with the estimate of $190,000 coming out of the 65% fund, $12,000 coming out of the local aid tax fund, and that would be a request for the commission to consider. I also provided you, sorry, I should do this first, the last sheet. I provided you accomplishments that Ken has put together based on this past year. It's been a crazy year. Ken, if you want to take a couple minutes, just share maybe your thoughts in that summary that you put together. Sure. And what we did to make some changes and how that works for us.
And just to give you a perspective, when we went into isolation due to COVID, everything was shut down, obviously. So tourism was shut down, state parks were shut down, county parks shut down, hotels shut down. Then as we started emerging out of that, a lot of our tourism-centric businesses didn't make it. They went out of business. Lots of restaurants went out of business. Over the course of the year, our hotels from a state level and the state parks have got back to kind of normal. It's taken a gradual approach. But here in Oconee, we had the best year we've ever had because we took a three-pronged approach to marketing. As soon as we went into isolation, we knew that we couldn't continue doing the marketing that we were doing, encouraging people to come here because there's nowhere to go. Everything's shut down. You can't stay anywhere. So we took a different approach and started coming up with some creative social media, newsletter, and website marketing campaigns. You may have seen some of them, just the jigsaw puzzles online with waterfalls and Lake Jocassee, and just fun things to do. And our SEO reports showed that there was a tremendous amount of success in that. But we knew that we had to just continue doing that while promoting Oconee with also a safe distancing message. And then as we started emerging out of it, we started hammering the local market because we knew that people didn't want to fly. They weren't going to stay in resort hotels. They weren't going to take cruises. Instead, they'd be looking for a place like Oconee to come to, like remote areas, North Georgia, Western North Carolina, all these places where people we knew were going to flock in there. So we started pushing out, it's a safe place to play logo with our message, and promoting our outdoors and our lakes and our rivers. And as a result of that, we got hit pretty hard. So all of our Airbnbs, our short-term rentals, then as the park started opening up, the campgrounds started booking, the cabins started booking. And then recently, the doors were pretty much open, the gates were open, and so we've gone back to marketing as usual. So now we're hitting our global basis again. So it's been a heck of a ride. Very proud of my staff for what they've done and their marketing efforts and jumping on board with our program. And so it's been a very successful year. And as I was telling Kevin earlier, I know the parks are going to be slammed this weekend, especially next weekend, and we are pretty much back to normal in terms of tourism here in Oconee County.
Any questions for Ken or myself? If not, this will be a request in front of you.
With the 202 requests, how does that compare to years past?
So we have traditionally been around 170 to 180. I did an increase this year, cover a couple of things. Our county employees are set to get a 3% increase. I included that in there. And then there's some additional marketing opportunities coming out of COVID that we wanted to look at, and so we increased it really probably $20,000 over previous years. And that's the first time we've increased it in a number of years. It's been 171 to 176 probably the last 4 or 5 years.
With the total revenue being higher than the total expenses, and with the estimate possibly being much higher than the 79, what is done with the surplus?
So the surplus is able to be rolled over for Visit Oconee.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, we redid the website. That was a big expense, and we actually was able to use some of the rollover money to keep that going. So he'll have a small rollover if the 30% fund is higher than expected to be able to start next year with.
And it's also to take advantage of opportunities. The one thing I failed to say earlier was that also due to COVID, a lot of people quit advertising. So you take Southern Living. I was getting full-page ads in Southern Living for $4,000. They normally sell for $25,000. And I have grant funding from the state that reimburses 50% of that. So a full-page ad in Southern Living cost me $2,000. So we did North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Probably 8 or 9 different editions. They did AAA magazine, Blue Ridge Outdoors, Atlanta magazine. All these things are relatively inexpensive. But the surplus just allows us to take advantage of other opportunities like that, so we can just plug money into additional marketing efforts.
Yeah, and we could probably assume that this year they're not going to have those kind of incentives this year. So
I just got one yesterday.
Really?
Blue Ridge Outdoors. I got a full page in there for $4,000, so it's going to cost me $2,000. That covers our targeted base, which is the outdoor enthusiasts and the southeastern U.S.
Okay.
Ken, quick question. So, for those who don't know, could you tell a little bit more about with personnel, who's a part of your team with Visit Oconee?
Charlotte Waters is our. She started as our sales manager. She's evolved into social media, so she plays a big part in social media, and she produces our visitors guide. It's a full-time job. Shonda Morrison is part-time. We're actually looking at her now as coming on full-time, but she does our newsletter and does our website management. And I just take people out to the rivers and the lakes and hang out in Jasmine Valley.
There you go.
I'm just a face, man.
Just to catch you up, we're just going over the Visit Oconee budget request, as you can see there in front of your screen. We need to take a moment to look at that if you have any questions for Ken on that.
No, I'm all good.
It is a request, so we do not need a motion, is that
We
correct?
do, we'll need a motion in a
do.
second.
Okay.
And a vote, of course.
So do you want to do that now or?
Yeah, we'll do them each one.
Right,
Yeah, we'll do them as we go through each item.
okay. So, if there's no further discussion, we will need a motion to approve.
I do have one other question. Just the local A-tax portion is 12,000, which is significantly lower, obviously, than the state A-tax. And our our local A-tax balance is much higher than this. So is there a reason, I'm sure there is a reason, I'm sure. I just wonder what that reason is that.
So typically, for example, last year I estimated that we would take, I think 20,000 out of locally tax and the rest out of state. There was so much in state, we actually took it all out of state.
Okay.
So when we do this agenda item summary to council, I'll have a little caveat in there that allows me to fluctuate between accounts to reach the 202,000 based on the fourth quarter check. And it won't come in until August. So once that check comes in, it may be that I take the whole 202 out of the state A-tax.
Okay.
The state A-tax, coming from the state, it's only set up to be used so many different ways. That is an approved use, and so is it easy for us to keep operating and just running that money through? Local A-tax, we tend to use more for our local parks, our local projects.
Okay.
And that has worked well for us. We've been doing that for probably 6, 7 years. And so as long as we can keep up with that route.
Yeah.
I always separate it just a little bit in case something happens and we have to pull money out that we don't realize. But typically, if fourth quarter check comes in well, I probably will take the whole 202 out of state A-tax.
Okay. Cool. And that just affords us to do more stuff locally with the
It does.
local A-tax.
Yeah, and then that state A-tax will build back up for 4 quarters and we'll do it again.
Okay. Great.
Still looking for a motion.
Nope. If everyone's done with questions, I'll make a motion to approve the 202,000.
You have a motion,
I second it.
second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good, thank you. Next item on the agenda is our museum docent program. This is the 5th year that we've done this. Some of you are probably familiar with seeing it. We utilize 15 hours a week. We provide funds to help staff a part-time person at those 3 museums to help them out. That comes from the local A-tax. It comes out to be $41,500 a year. We do that in 2 installments. We'll pay half of it in July, get them through the first half of the year, let the A-tax continue to build up. Then we'll do a second payment in January for the second half of the year. That $41,500 covers the 15 hours at each location a week, plus it provides almost $10,000 of advertising costs for them to utilize for some marketing opportunities and special events that may go on in and around that museum. So this is something that it's worked out really well. Obviously, last year was a tough year for all museums, but we're hoping to continue going. Now, they got a lot of work done. Inventory's good and a lot of work's been done, but we're hoping this year that attendance gets back to somewhat normal. But that would be a request for $41,500 to be paid in 2 installments out of local A-tax.
Questions?
Got any?
I have a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
41,500.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Carries.
Very good. Next item, we started this last year as a result of increasing local A-tax and the number of people in our parks. There was a bigger demand for additional part-time and peak season staffing. Because of the addition of LAT, we're able to request using some of that money, which is what it's meant for, to support the tourism industry, rather than hitting our general fund. So this has been a big win for us. This year, we're requesting up to $25,000 to supplement the '22 budget, and that will be professional funds that we will use across the platform as needed to cover our county park system and all the Lake Hartwell boat landings. So this year, we had requested, I think last year we requested 22 at one meeting and 40 at the other. We did not utilize it all, and so we're still utilizing, because that's LAT, it can carry forward. So we're still utilizing last year's money right now, and we won't even start this until we run out of what's left from last year. This will cover us for a full year.
In the past too, you were using interns from, are you
So we
still?
utilize, so the interns are paid separately. Usually I brought them, I think I brought them to you at the last meeting. So we have one intern at each park, and we have an intern visit Oconee. But this one is, we do utilize a lot of Clemson students for summer employment. We pay them, we can work them up 40 hours a week through the temporary staffing agency. And so that's what this fund's going for.
Have you had to increase staffing at Charles with the new visitor center?
We
Office.
had, well, we did that with Mandy.
Okay.
Mandy was in South Code, in my office, and, she is now in
And she's
the
done a
store.
great job, I'm sure.
Thank you.
I know she does.
Doing a great job for you too.
That's right. But no, she does that and is still able to help do, some operational things that I do. So that's how we helped with the Charles store. We are working to increase some staffing, with the additional land in Charles. We'll be doing the master plan this year, and that'll continue. But this should be enough. And I actually had about a 10% contingency built into this number to get us through this year.
It's gonna be busy this summer.
Any other questions, comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the 25,000 to supplement the PRT seasonal staffing.
I'll second. All in favor?
Very good. The next one is, this is also a continuing, something we do each year. The South Carolina Sports Alliance, this is a $5,000 request. I'm currently serving as president of the Sports Alliance. This is ending my first year, and I got one more year as the president. COVID was different. All of our client relations and tourism recruiting was done through Zoom and online. We actually just participated in our first in-person show last week. We had a board member to go to the Sports Express conference and meet with 30 different individual clients. And all those notes will be sent out to all of our members to be able to follow up with those event owners. This $5,000 goes towards our membership. It goes towards our participation to go to the conferences, as well as any client events that we would put together in partnership with the other 23 members around the state. So we all kind of pitch in a very small amount, and we're able to make a big impact through the sports industry with this request. And it's a relationship building opportunity. If you do recruiting, you know that's very, very important. Each of our conferences, we get to spend time with the rights holders, get on their calendar, look at the opportunities to get new business in here. This year was mostly fishing because that was what was safe to do. But we see those at each conference, and we're able to stay in front of them and look at their opening dates for future events.
So with this Sports Alliance, I mean, obviously, like, you have your outdoor sports and everything else, but does this encompass other sports as well, like?
Oh, it covers anything from cornhole to dancing to traditional sports to the PGA that's going on this week. I mean, everybody that's involved in the Sports Alliance recruits for their specific destination. We go to shows as Team South Carolina, and we represent the state at those shows. And then we all get the leads, and it's our job to then go through the leads and determine what works best for Oconee. And then we then go through and try to pull those into Oconee.
Any other questions, comments? Have a motion?
So I'll motion we approve $5,000.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Motion carries.
This one I'm probably most excited about. We've been working on docks for years because of, again, the increase in the local A tax. We're able to do this outside of the general fund budget. We are replacing the courtesy dock at the single ramp at South Cove and the courtesy dock at High Falls County Park. We're replacing them with docks that are 100 feet long. So you're not only replacing what you got, but we're expanding for more inventory, more places for people to unload their boat, tie up. We're going with aluminum docks with concrete top, very similar to what you have at Devil's Fork. So this will be a major improvement to what we have. Our intent to bid went out earlier this year. We opened bids on April 29th. We had 5 responses. And total bid, low bid was $131,299.40 for those 2 docks. We added a 10% contingency. Don't expect to use it unless we have to. But this request is $144,429.34, with the vendor being Custom Dock Company to replace the courtesy docks in South Cove and High Falls. So that's a request to you that will also go to county council.
Yeah, they're like, ours are like 12 by 12 concrete blocks. Oh,
Yeah, it's, so the aluminum frame, very similar to this grid system right here. And then you have a 12 by 12 concrete paver that sits on top of those to create your dock, rather than decking boards.
Yeah.
So you have a lot more life expectancy out of it.
And just to remind everyone, this is for 2,
This is for 2.
not just 1. That's a pretty good price for.
Where's it, is this one going on the, what would be the south ramp at South Cove?
The single ramp,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be the one facing the castle.
Oh, okay, so the east camp, the one, okay.
So the.
I was saying, the other one's newer,
The other one
right?
has a new ramp. that
Okay.
We did with Duke Energy a couple years ago.
So, because that's just got a little floating dock or something out there,
So we
right?
have a little floating
Gotcha.
dock. This will add a 10 by 100
Yeah, that's good.
dock with a 50-foot walkway over to the shore to a new abutment.
Yeah, that's great.
So it'll be a great addition.
Okay.
And the one at High Falls,
High Falls is
not the patio deck.
relatively the same size. The walkway is 10 foot longer because of where it's the different angle. And so I think it's a 90-foot dock with a 40-foot walkway.
But it's not the one in front of the patio deck.
No, it's the one at the boat ramp, just the courtesy dock.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments, questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2 dock replacements.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion's carried.
Here you go. That will go to council at the next council meeting, and we'll get those on order. So super excited to see those go in. Have 2 more for you. As you know, we have a lot of disc golf in Oconee County. We have 2 courses at Shaver. We have a course at Walhalla. We have a course now at Cholla-Ram, the Chaga Rapids course. We have sat down with Ryan Isholmer, who does the promoting and recruiting for disc golf tournaments with Down South Disc. And we put together this sponsorship basically for a year. And what this does is this allows us to be the sponsor for these 4 B-tier tournaments. And he's going to work, it's actually $4,000, it's $1,000 per. We threw an extra $1,000 in there so that he could try to make an A-tier tournament. An A-tier tournament would actually pull about twice as many people, have a higher payout because you have additional sponsors. So those are the 4 tournaments that are going on that'll utilize all the courses. I know he just did one at Seneca a couple weeks ago.
It was good.
That was really full.
Yeah.
They're actually, a lot of the volunteers are pouring the pads this week for the new course. They're working on it at Seneca right now. So disc golf is big. Each tournament brings in 90 to 100 people. And so if you get a 2-day tournament, then obviously they're here staying, and a $1,000 investment for each of those tournaments is a pretty good investment. So this is for a full year for $5,000 towards disc golf sponsorship.
I'll make a motion that we approve the $5,000.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That motion carries as well. Last item, actually.
So the last one is very much needed. So I got a picture for you. As we began to look at Lake Cartwheel landings, and we took some of them over, we knew some of them needed some work. And over the course of this winter, when the lake came up and down a couple of times, it really took a toll on South Union's shoreline. This is right at the ramp, you can see from the pictures. Cars are now having to turn around before they get to this point and then back a lot further distance to get to the ramp. We have submitted a request to the Corps of Engineer for a retaining wall fix. That request was approved May the 13th, so now we're ready to schedule that. This will be a stabilization of 70 linear feet. We'll actually use the 2.5 by 2.5 by 5 foot Lego blocks to build a retaining wall, and then that will be covered with roof wrap on both sides and asphalt will tie back into that retaining wall, rebuilding our shoreline out to what you see has collapsed. All that work will be done by our Roads and Bridges team, as they can work it into their schedule, hopefully as soon as possible once we get all this passed. So the rock and the asphalt and the retaining wall is probably about $7,500. We added an extra $2,500 in case we ran into anything else once they started tearing stuff up. So that's why it says up to $10,000. We won't know until we kind of dig in there and see what's happening with the rest of that shoreline. So that's a request that could help fix South Union with up to $10,000.
Honestly, looking at it, if it's $10,000, that seems to be fairly reasonable.
Well, that's because we're using our own labor.
Okay.
So this is just materials cost.
Okay.
Labor is covered because it's county employees doing the work.
Gotcha.
None of this will go towards the labor. And so our team, man hours and equipment will go in there. And we've already submitted the work layout and the scope to the Corps that's been approved. And what we'll do is we'll put the retaining block right at the 660 line, and then we'll build around that and bring that shoreline back to the full pond level.
That's the biggest hurdle. You gotta pass the core, so.
Yeah.
Actually, that was very easy.
Was it?
Well, you see what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, once it collapsed like that, it's
Been a lot of that on both lakes.
but no, it's, and the water is up right there pretty good. It's only about 2.5 feet down when I took that picture. So, that retaining wall will be just to the left of that red sign and run 70 feet back this direction.
All right. Do we have any other questions, comments? All right. Have a motion.
Yep. I make a motion to approve the $10,000 budget to repair South Union shoreline.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Very good.
Next
Thank you
item.
all. That's all the requests I have today. I'll provide you a few project updates. You've all seen Center Creek and the layout of that. I am one piece of paper away from being able to bid that project. I'm waiting on a final approval from DHEC, and as soon as that comes through, we will proceed with the bidding documents and start that project. We have put all of our tournament on hold that we would do on Cartwheel until we have an anticipation of how long that's gonna take once we get through that process. So I'm really waiting any day to get a response from DHEC, and then we'll be able to start that project. Super excited about phase one of that, which will include the new ramp, paved parking, and all the sidewalks. And then phase two will pull in the buildings and a couple other things. So look for that soon, I hope. You also helped approve some money for a second South Grove dump station. Waiting on the same piece of paper from DHEC for that one. And so we are continuously working with them to get what they need to be able to accomplish those, and we'll start that work as well. If you followed us through the winter a little bit, the Corps approached us with closing down a number of things around the lake and asked us if we'd be interested in taking anything over to keep it from closing for some funding issues they were having. We looked at the list and did some negotiating and said we would take this one over if you'll keep the other ones open. And that worked for this year. So they kept open one of the ones they were gonna close for another year, and we decided to take Friendship over. So we added Friendship Recreation Area to our existing 10-year lease. We have a lease that has 12 different locations and ramps on them around Lake Hartwell. That's set to expire in 2024. we will reevaluate that then and do a new lease, depending on the recommendations at that time. So we took that over as of, we opened up May 1st. So now our guys are maintaining friendship, both the boat ramp on the north side and the recreation area on the south side, which has a restroom, a beach, I think 15 picnic tables, and a playground. So that is added to our inventory. And some of that $25,000 that you approved for the seasonal staff will go towards an extra part-time person that goes with them as we added that space. So you can kind of see how all that plays together. The last thing I got for you, last year's budget allowed for us to raise our vehicle parking from $2 a car to $3 a car. We did not do that during COVID. We kind of put that on hold. And as things began to open back up, we started that May 1st. Nothing changes to our annual passes. You still get an annual pass for $25. We still have the free passes for veterans, seniors, and legally disabled. So none of that changed. It was just the $1 increase on the parking fee per the budget ordinance of last year. So, and I don't think we're going to have any major fee changes in this year's budget. We evaluated and made a recommendation on the winter fee. Our winter camping has increased a ton. We were offering a winter rate of $15, which is extremely cheap. We made a recommendation to do away with that and just have our regular fees year-round, which is $20, $25, and $30 a night based on whether or not you're a resident or whether or not it's waterfront. So it was only a $5 difference. But we're seeing our winter really peak up, and you're not making probably anything on a $15 a night by the time you add all your stuff in. So we did recommend that, and that's going through the budget process now. That's my project update and the request. Any questions for me? Any questions for Ken?
Yeah. So, go ahead, Ken. I'm like you about to say something.
I think so. You ought to tell them about being profitable.
Well, we don't know that yet. We do have one of our parks that if we have a similar fourth quarter to last year, for the first time ever, we will be on the plus side.
Wow.
So that's a big deal in Parks and Recreation. You know that around the state, it's tough to get to that point. At $20, $25, and $30 dollars a night camping, and $2 and $3 to get in the park, we're close to breaking even on one park. So we'll know that once this quarter ends.
So, that's some things I want to bring up. I want to say, first of all, Ken had the opportunity to watch, I know it's been about a month or so, when you did a presentation for the planning commission. You were stating your case about why there's a need for a hospitality tax to be implemented in Oconee County. Now, I don't know how many people out there watch that, like I watched it, but I appreciate you doing that. And I didn't realize how much money in terms of, because we got so many people coming in, increased tourism, and how so much is spent on food and beverage, but if it's not captured in the cities,
Well, it is.
we're losing,
The municipals have the hospitality tax. The county doesn't.
Yes.
And we're missing, I don't know, it's high level, Department of Revenue says we're missing over $1 million a year. And over 50% of that are non-Oconee County residents. People coming in and out of the county on 123, 130, stopping at Burger King and McDonald's, whatever. So you could say over $500,000 a year would be free money to Oconee County, and we just can't get it passed the county.
Does it have any effect on the existing city hat taxes?
No.
That
Just
affects me.
asking for a friend.
Right, exactly.
So in other words, you have no dog in the fight.
It would just be.
Well, we're already paying it on the city level. I was just making sure we're not gonna have to pay it again on the county level.
This is for unincorporated areas of the county. County council looked at that and reviewed it a couple years ago. Decided to go a different route and raise revenues a different way that year. It's always on the table as a revenue opportunity. It's just something they have to look at each year and decide is now the time that they want to consider that. So it is a lot of low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, it seems
Yes,
like
big
it's.
So it's something that we keep making sure it's in front of them to consider.
And also,
Popeyes is in the county. Tipsy Tacos in the county. It's not in the city.
well, and I think that's significant to bring up because like, you know, a lot of folks that live here, you know, they're not aware. Like, I give a good example with Seneca, for example, Riley. So like, Applewood Shopping Center,
Right.
that's not in city
No,
limits.
it's not.
And you look at how much growth has happened over there.
Yeah. And all the way up by Chick-fil-A and all that. None of that's in the city.
Not city.
No.
So,
If you eat a Big Dave's burger at Wendy's, you pay it.
Yeah.
If you eat a Big Mac at McDonald's, you don't pay
Right.
Big Mac at McDonald's.
But then you go on the other end of 123 and you have the new Popeyes.
yes.
And
Right.
no-
Yeah.
and nothing.
Hartwell
Yes.
Village.
Hartwell
Yeah.
Village,
None
and
of
Tipsy
that.
Taco, and Mike's Burgers and Fries. So there's a lot of stuff going over there too.
Right.
So that's not in the municipal.
it. So as we look at larger projects, Seneca Creek's obviously a big project. We've got enough money for phase one, but phase two will be another $700,000 or so. So as we look at those and how we're gonna fund those in the future, that's where council has to look at those.
Maybe that get a little bit
revenue
more
streams and
attention,
Try to see how they wanna do that. We've also talked about potentially trying to do a bond over a number of years
Yeah.
so that we can knock out some projects and pay ourselves back with local A tax. So there's several different things that we're pitching, and they have to make those decisions as what best works for each year.
Out of curiosity, you said something about the lease on the ramps at the core. What do the leases on Kiwi would do?
Our lease with Duke goes through their operating license.
Oh, okay. So
um,
that, it just goes conjunction with that?
Yeah, so it stays in conjunction with their operator's license, which is,
Yeah.
2040?
I think.
It's a while, yeah.
it went- The most recent one did it for another 40 years, so I forget what the final number is. Yeah, we used to have a year on those, but during the last relicensing, they changed all those to follow their license.
With the ATEX application, because I know the next round's coming up in, I think, August. I believe.
August 13th, I think, is a Friday,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
is the deadline for the next cycle.
So how are entities aware that this application even exists, right, in order to be able to apply? Because I've had to start to kind of go around to like areas like Salem and West Union, like kind of areas that's easily can be forgotten, right? I mean, with this increased funding that we're now having, that we want to see tourism spread out throughout the whole county,
Sure.
right? So how is it being, like, do you reach out?
We do a press release each cycle. The time doesn't change each year. It's February 15th and August 15th, depending on how that weekend falls,
Yeah.
is the deadline. I would say 90 to 95% of all of our tourism partners are aware of it. It's whether or not they have projects or things that are coming up
Okay.
for that cycle. But yeah, we do a press release each year and include that time. And the application it stays on the county website for them to have easy access to. Under the PRT Commission page, you'll see it at the top.
Have we had any recent submissions of applications for?
Well, we did, at the last cycle, we were able to fund everything that
Right.
came before the commission the last cycle.
Mhm.
So we won't see, even though the deadline's August 13th, we won't see applications probably until August 1st. They won't start rolling into that first week of August.
Okay.
You'll probably see them August the 12th.
Yeah, because most of
that how
them
they
come in that last.
Guilty, guilty.
Sometimes I get a phone call that says, hey man, I'm emailing this right now.
Yeah, that's me. He didn't want to say it, but that's me.
All right, anything else? All right, do again appreciate everybody coming out, taking time to view us online if you have. Next meeting will be August the 19th here, 12 noon again. And before we adjourn, everybody, I hope you have a good, safe summer. Hope we are busy, but again, safe. I look forward to